should be quick. Did this video last year and I'm still getting so many stupid comments on it, so I'm going to do a follow-up on the damn video I did. It's almost a year old. But basically I looked up some statistics and it showed that about an overwhelming majority, I can't recall the exact number now, but an overwhelming majority of the US population still supported the troops in the context of the war in Iraq. And it wasn't, support the troops slogan as in bring them home safe and support them that way, support their bringing home safe. No, it was a support the troops as in let's make sure that these guys get their soldier deeds accomplished as effectively as possible. Now obviously I'm not someone who's going to come out here and say war is bad or any other similar type of simplistic bullshit, because we know that war isn't always bad. So yeah, I'm not always anti-war. I'll be anti-war when all the rational signs point to the probability that the war will ultimately result in less suffering. Ultimately. Okay? So I think most of us can agree that the Iraq war by now, 7 years in, is not ultimately going to result in an end result that's going to compensate for all the suffering that's taken place so far. So basically when you're saying I support the troops, not as in I want to bring them home safe, but when you're talking about how I support the troops in the context of I want to see them accomplish their soldier task as effectively as possible, and when you think you're capable of doing that and at the same time taking a moral stance against this bullshit imperialistic war that's going on in Iraq, basically yeah, what I did a video and saying I called bullshit on it. Basically what the video was. So nobody argued the analogy I brought up. I'm still getting idiotic comment after idiotic comment, mostly from troops or families of troops who are just so fanatical that they can't even fucking think straight. But yeah, I bring up, well, what they bring up. I'll just talk about some of the bullshit they bring up. The obvious stupid bullshit arguments like, well, try going through what I went through and then come and tell me that what I'm doing is stupid. It's not about your personal endurance level being at a higher threshold than mine. And even though he doesn't have any proof that I have a lower one, he's just saying that he has one higher than mine. But anyway, that's not even the fucking point, okay? It's not about who can endure more. If I ran into a fucking wall full speed and you called me an idiot for it, I wouldn't tell you that, oh, well, I ran into the wall full speed and I bet you wouldn't be able to do it. I wouldn't say that. I'd simply say, yeah, I'm probably a fucking idiot for running full speed into a wall, even though I can endure it and get up right away. But anyway, the point I'm driving to is, yeah, there's always this guilt trip that goes along. Anytime you choose to criticize anything about the military-industrial complex, there's always this guilt trip that gets thrown on us. And it gets thrown on us in the context of, well, if we don't support the defense mechanism now, it means that we don't want a defense mechanism at all. Because why would we support it sometimes and not the other times? That means that we're having our cake and eating it too, right? We're being inconsistent, we're being hypocrites, it's doublespeak. And it's just such bullshit. We don't look at any other form of organization in this sort of way where it's all or nothing, but we do look at the military in this sort of way. Well, at least a lot of people still do. A lot of people are wising up to it, but a lot of other people will look at someone like me for saying, well, I don't support the troops at all in this particular war, and they'll associate me with someone who's having his cake and eating it too, because I would endorse them in another war, something like World War II. And it just makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. And I brought up the analogy of a bully. Yeah, say you have a bully, say we all had a bully, and this other guy came in and kicked the shit out of our bully for us. And we were grateful and we thanked him. And then the same guy who kicked the shit out of our bully went ahead and started harassing people and maybe even killing people for no good fucking reason. And I brought up the question and said, well, would we be forever indebted to this same fucker who got rid of our problem for us? Would we be so indebted to him for solving our problem to the point where we wouldn't be allowed to criticize him and say we don't support his involvement in a completely different scenario? Okay, and he can save our lives. He can get rid of 1,000 bullies for us, 100,000 bullies for us. But if he goes and does something completely fucked up, completely unethical, in a completely different scenario, we would not be obligated to keep our mouths shut or to support him. So, regardless of whether or not he has control, or regardless of whether or not he is making the decision to invade and kill all these other people. I shouldn't say decision, I should say plan, regardless of whether or not he's making the plan. Because yeah, all these people who are, who are crazy about supporting the troops and being able to support the troops without supporting a war, they're telling us to take it up with the administrations. And or if they're truthers, then the men behind the curtain of the administration. But that's another non sequitur. But yeah, the point is that the troops are still making an active decision to take part in a war. Just because they didn't organize the war, just because they didn't have a decision as to whether the war would take place or not, doesn't mean that they're not signing up or re-enlisting, knowing full well what's ahead. And for those who didn't know what's ahead and they didn't want to, resign or whatever they would do, for those who didn't want to do that because they didn't have any prospects at home and they wanted to do to stay in the military for the benefits, and they had kids to feed. I'm sorry, but there are other jobs. There are other ways of acquiring money. And if you have every sign pointing to the military industrial complex in the US getting the fuck out of hand, yeah, you should probably stay the fuck away from it and get a different sort of way of income. And there's nothing wrong with me saying that. And if I were in the military and I knew that all of a sudden I would see that, yeah, these guys are, all signs are pointing to the fact that these guys want to invade a country for no good fucking reason, I would take off. And yeah, I would serve time if that's what my punishment would be. Because yeah, that's tough shit on me. I can't just go and start blowing things up because I have no job alternatives, or because I joined an institution that I knew full well could go invading any country for no good fucking reason. So, to the people who are going to comment here, please tell me how the analogy is wrong. The analogy that we can analogize the fucking military-industrial complex to a simplistic bully analogy. And I can say, yeah, if somebody came and took care of my bully for me, and then this same person who solved my problem or solved your problem went ahead and involved himself with a bunch of unethical bullshit acts, how am I being a bad person for saying I don't support his involvement in that imperialistic mission or whatever the fuck it is that causes him to go harm some other people? It makes no sense whatsoever, and we don't think on this clearly because there is this stigma when it comes to the fucking goddamn military-industrial complex, where we set it aside from all the other things that we evaluate on a sort of clear thinking level. And we do this, I think, because there's a lot of bloodshed that has been thrown around to the point where we would, people always say, yeah, well, if it weren't for the troops in the past decades, you'd all be fucking speaking German right now. And yeah, so these kinds of things, they always cloud our judgment when it comes to rational fucking analysis of the current circumstance. And I'm saying they shouldn't cloud our judgment because we are perfectly well within reason to condemn a certain generation of troops for choosing to not, or choosing to re-enlist or choosing to enlist the first time, knowing full well what this war was about. And we can do that and at the same time still praise the brave men. Well, these guys are brave too, but they're brave for stupid reasons. And we can still condemn these guys and praise the fucking brave men from 60 years ago or 70 years ago who did do it for ethical reasons. Ultimately ethical reasons. It's never ethical, as you're doing it, but yeah, it can result in potentially, ultimately ethical reasons. So that's all. Just discredit my analogy, discredit the idea that I can't have it fucking both ways. Because I think I can. And I think it's a rational stance to take. And fucking 9 minutes. Okay, well, I wanted to go through a bunch of other crap, but if I start now, it'll probably run over 2 more minutes. So I'll just save it for our next video. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And it's getting fucking dark around here, so I'm just gonna shut it off.